Every once in a while, someone makes a video, once again, spreading the misinformation that Shakespeare was a woman or a black woman or anyone but the dude who was from Stratford-upon-Avon, the son of a glover who got caught in a wool scandal. And then I have to come on the internet and correct everybody. So how do we know that Shakespeare was not a woman? Quite frankly, I don't think you guys know how history works. We have more evidence of William Shakespeare, the human person, than we have of almost every other person who was alive at the period of time that he was. The only people we have more information on were nobles and royalty, for the most part, because people were interested in writing stuff about them down. There's also this really little handy thing called the Great Fire of London in 1666, right? Which, by the way, my 5 and my 7-year-old that I work with, they know that it happened in 1666, because if it happened the year after that, it would have been in 1667, okay? They also know that Shakespeare died in 1616. Like, the kids are gonna be all right. Anyway, a lot of records, a lot of stuff in history is lost. I don't know why you guys think that there are fundamental answers to everything in history the way there is in science, because there just isn't. We are not going to find probably letters from Shakespeare or diaries from Shakespeare. We're not going to know what he thought in his head. We're not going to know any of that information. However, we know for a fact that William Shakespeare was the son of John Shakespeare, that he moved to London, that he was a playwright and an actor. Guys, he was one of the heads of the company that was sponsored by King James. Like, we know that he performed in front of Elizabeth I. Do you understand? The arguments that people make for this, right, are, well, you didn't spell his name consistently right. No one spelled their name consistently at the time because there was no consistent spelling. The dictionary hadn't been invented yet. He didn't have books in his will. He didn't have a lot of stuff in his will. He did teach his daughters to read, though. He also had a son named Hamnet, who died right before William Shakespeare wrote Hamlet. This is a non-negotiable. This is a non-negotiable history fact, and I need you to understand that negotiating with non-negotiable history facts is the breeding ground for fascism. Would have been cool if William Shakespeare was a woman. He wasn't, though, okay? And one, assuming that because William Shakespeare was uneducated meant he couldn't have written any of the plays, does a disservice to every single person who has not had the privilege or access to education in the entire world, as well as the fact that he was educated, and that's bullshit anyway. What? You can and should question everything. However, when the entire world has looked at something and reached a logical conclusion, such as the earth is round, or William Shakespeare existed and wrote those plays, when you start questioning that, and we present that as though that is legitimate discussion, we then open up the ground to question whether things like the Holocaust happened. Do you understand? If you would like to learn about really cool women in history, there is a lot of information out there. You do not need to create them out of thin air. If you would like to write historical fiction, you should do so. That's great. When you ignore very real history, you are not only ignoring all of the actual pain and suffering or all of the actual people and their actual experience who actually lived, because they are, guess what? People. Just like you and me. They were just living at a different period of time. Genuinely think of people in the past as people slightly less privileged than you, because that's basically what it was. 400 years ago in the grand scheme of things is not that long. Humans are not that radically different than we were from 10,000 years ago, okay? But when you also deny that of like the real things that happened, you're ignoring why we are the way we are today, okay? The expansion of the English Empire during the time in which Shakespeare was alive and directly afterwards is that is why the United States of America exists, you understand? But a lot of people would rather make up fake history than like actually look at things and deal with them, or make up fake things in the world and look at them and deal with them. And that's just not helpful to anybody. And what should scare you, and I've talked about this before, is that you heard someone say something that you liked the sound of, Shakespeare could have been a woman, and you ran with it. Rather than looking it up, rather than figuring it out for yourself. You just believed it because it sounded like something that you would like to believe. That should scare you. Not only do things that sound woke or sound like better not always mean that they are better, because Shakespeare, that whole Shakespeare being a woman thing is actually just denying classism. But also, that is exactly how you fall for propaganda. And you just did. Propaganda isn't always going to look like somebody coming into your face and telling you something that you disagree with, and you're gonna be able to look back at them and be like, actually, no. It doesn't look like advertisements. If you look at those files that were released, right? They talk about how J.E. was on the internet talking about certain right-wing stuff in order to influence things going the way he wanted them to. You need to learn how to use your brain, please. And again, if you can't, my 5-year-old can. So that's maybe on you.